Hello, everyone, and welcome to the channel. I am clipping out a segment of our latest podcast, Talking Movies podcast on the channel. This segment, we talked about How to Train Your Dragon 4, and this is full spoilers for How to Train Your Dragon 3, so if you have not seen How to Train Your Dragon 3, don't watch this yet, but if you have, we had a really fun discussion on whether or not there will be a How to Train Your Dragon 4 and what we would want from that movie. And so we have a really great conversation. So I wanted to clip this out specifically, put it on the channel separately. If you guys want to watch the entire podcast, we talk about the Oscars, we talk about the Obi-Wan TV series, and we talk about Captain Marvel, like Twitter reactions and all of that. And we also do full spoilers for the actual movie of How to Train Your Dragon: The Hidden World. So if you want to see the full episode, it's in the description. I'll see if I can do the iCard in the top corner or in the tag at the end of the video. So check out our little clip from the podcast. Also, box office. Did you see box office?
It did really well.
Yeah, it did. It's the best movie opening so far this year, which I thought Lego Movie would actually do better, but Lego Movie did not do so well. But it did the best of the trilogy. I think the first one made 44 million, second one made 49 million, this one made 55. So they're all progressively going up, and I'm like really happy for these movies, honestly.
Yeah. Do you think they will do another one eventually down the road? You
know, since we were doing spoilers, so what you mentioned earlier, by the end of the movie, Hiccup has to say goodbye to Toothless, and the dragons go to the hidden world, and on their own, they're like, one day we will be able to live together, right? Which is why I think the message is a little bit weird, because like I was trying to compare it to like, you know, like just whether it's, you know, the LGBTQ, you know, we can live together type thing, or like, you know, with races. And I was like, okay, by the end of the movie, they want to be separated because the world's not ready. I want to see a world where the world is ready, and you can have the dragon. So I think you can continue on and spread a different message by that movie, and have it be like the dragon human utopia that actually works throughout the entire world, and you can do different stories with that. And I think that would be cool.
So you wouldn't do like in the future with Hiccup's kids, and
maybe you can have Hiccup's kids, and like Burke was the one that led the charge to bring dragons into the world, and Hiccup was the first one to do that, and they remember him as, you know, the first, you know. And then you can have generations later, maybe not in like modern times, because that'd feel weird. I think they kind of forced it. Well, not really forced, but I didn't think the How to Train Your Dragon world was our world. But apparently it is our world.
Really?
Yeah, because I think it is. Because it's, you know, it's the Vikings in that time period. And they made jokes about the earth being flat. But then when they got to the waterfall, you know, I was expecting it to be like an actual flat world. But the ocean went on past that. Did you notice that?
Yeah.
So it's actually Earth. It takes place in the Viking times. And it's supposed to be our world. And so that's why dragons are not in our world right now. That's how I took it, at least.
Okay. Yeah, I get what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I want to see that world expand and it be worldwide dragon human utopia. You can make more movies down the line, or you can even do a story where someone finds the hidden world on accident. You can do a whole new adventure. I'm sure Toothless will still be around. I don't know the lifespan of dragons, but you know, you can always have Toothless back. So
right. Yeah, and you can have an older Toothless, where, you know, maybe it's not what the Vikings like during, like, you know what I mean, like what, like century or whatever. Like just have it. What's next after Vikings? Cowboys?
Like, not cowboys. Probably. Well, it depends on what part of the world, because you can do more like medieval times. Because I know the Viking era, I'm not sure if that was around the medieval times, but can you imagine a more medieval version of How to Train Your Dragon?
Yeah.
Like, that's what I'm thinking.
So then you have an older Toothless with the medieval times. You have the huge castle, all that stuff, and you have Hiccup's kid.
Like more, castles and knights and Vikings.
Do you bring in Hiccup's kids, or do you do different people with Toothless?
I think you do different people, and then maybe you can do cameos of Vikings later down the line.
And they talk about the legend of Hiccup.
Yeah. I would love that if they did that. But, like, with Planet of the Apes...
You know what you can do is have maybe Hiccup's daughter, and then she basically, you have Hiccup's daughter. It's almost like Hiccup is like this legend, right? But you have his daughter, who's, and she basically she meets someone in the media, like she's basically she like I guess you like
She leaves.
she leaves and
Just like explore the world or something. I don't
maybe
know.
she like okay, here's the thing. Okay, so you have the Vikings and then you have maybe like you have this group that is more medieval, right? And she meets, you know, some boys, like classic, you know, girl meets boy, whatever. And she leaves Hiccup. And so their relationship is awful. It's bad, and Hiccup's old, and you know she's off living with the medieval times, and um maybe the guy that she meets or whoever finds the hidden world, and so that's how you kind of connect the dots. Is like she recognizes Toothless,
Yeah.
and so she has that connection with Toothless, and it kind of brings that like thought of like I should go find my, you know what I mean? Like by the end of it, and maybe by the end of it, Hiccup dies because you know just
See,
being older. But at
I
least
don't like
his
that.
daughter. No, I'm just
No.
trying to spitball. Like if you want,
Here's the problem with this. Before you go any further down this
can do
rabbit
that.
hole, with a quick Google search, Vikings around the year 1066, medieval times is the 15th century, so that's 400
Okay.
years.
Well, maybe
Um,
not medieval times, but you know, I mean, the
Yeah.
next.
I would
The
like
next
medieval
thing.
times though, because could you imagine you fast forward 400 years and then you won't like maybe you'll have like Burke in it. It'd be completely separate. You'd have a different line of kings and queens that came around to Burke or chiefs, and maybe you incorporate Burke somewhere. But I think you just stick with medieval. You do a completely new. The only returning character could be Toothless, or just other Night Furies in general, and that's how you continue the story. Same thing with like
I
Planet
mean,
of the Apes.
I would like to see at least one thing from the original trilogy.
Yeah.
Trilogy back. So it would be Toothless, just older Toothless, and honestly, it'd probably be, you know, Toothless would end up dying.
Could you
and
imagine
his
someone from
son
medieval
or-
times finding the dragons, right? And then because they don't know and they don't understand, Toothless brings them to Burke to learn the legends of the dragons.
Okay, perfect. There you go. And then that's where you can have the connections and all of that. Yeah, I like
You can
that.
merge these worlds of the Vikings.
But you know, there's gonna be family of Hiccup there.
yeah.
And they're gonna.
Not as
No
immediate
matter,
as what you're
no matter
saying.
what though, Hiccup and then his kids will pass down the knowings of Toothless.
Yeah,
They
and
will
like, maybe
all
they
know
even still
Toothless.
visit
So-
Toothless. Like
right.
they did that
So
in the
those
movie.
people, when Toothless goes there, you will know like they'll know who Toothless is.
Yeah.
So you're gonna have that connection to Hiccup no matter what.
I mean, I think you kind of need
Or
that.
at
Like,
least
I
his
love Jay
family.
Baruchel as Hiccup, and I love his voice acting work. But if you just get a whole new cast, you know, you only keep to this. I think that's the way to go.
Right.
Like the Planet of the Apes thing, you know, Caesar dies at the end of the movie. Spoiler alert! But you can continue with the apes in that world that they create later in that universe. I don't think they will go to it, but with how successful this movie is and how each movie is getting more and more successful, I think there's a solid chance that we do get a How to Train Your Dragon 4.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing: they're making a Toy Story 4. Like,
Yeah.
they're gonna make a How to Train Your Dragon 4. Like,
We'll have to wait a while though, because every movie
Yes.
is 5 years apart. Also, animation is
And
gorgeous.
honestly, it might be 10 years. Like, they might not even start like thinking about it, you know, for another couple of years, and they're like, you know what? Let's do a 10-year later thing. Let it breathe a little bit. That way, when
Let this
'cause, like,
trilogy stand
here's
on
the
its
thing:
own.
in like 4 years when they announce it, or like 3.5 years, people are gonna be like, no, they should have ended after 3, right? But in 9 years,
Eighth.
like people are gonna be like, oh yeah, I remember that movie. Like that, this is you know, perfect timing. So I think they should have a bigger gap for sure, because it's gonna bring back that nostalgia. At least it's gonna be a little bit more than it would have been just, you know, after announcing it 3.5 years later.
Well, yes.
Yeah, I agree. 100% agree with everything you just said. I don't know. I really want more of these movies, but if it is in 9 years, that's fine with me. That is
Yeah.
completely fine with me.